There are boundaries that should never be crossed. There are desires that should never be admitted. But what happens when your heart doesn't care about the rules? When the man you want is the only one you can't have? Evan Cole thought he was coming to assemble a bed. He didn't know he was about to shatter everything he ever believed in. This is a story of betrayal, lust, and the price of honesty. Stay until the end, hit like, and comment on the city you're viewing from so I know how far this story has come. The hardware store smelled like sawdust and motor oil. Evan Cole stood in the plumbing aisle, staring at copper fittings he didn't need, killing time before he had to face his own empty house. 32 years old, and this was what his evenings looked like. Wandering aisles, pretending he had projects that mattered. His phone buzzed. Marcus. "Hey man, you busy?" Evan almost laughed. "Busy. Right. Not really. What's up?" "Mom's bed frame showed up today. Things apparently from Sweden or some shit. Instructions look like hieroglyphics. You free to swing by and help me put it together? I'm drowning at work, and she's been sleeping on the damn mattress on the floor for 3 days." Evan felt that familiar tug, the one that made him say yes to things he should probably decline. Marcus had been his best friend since they were 7. They'd learned to swim in the same lake, broken the same bones falling out of the same tree. When Evan's mom died 2 years ago, Marcus had shown up at his door every single day for a month. Didn't say much, just sat there. "Yeah, I can do that. When?" "Tonight? I know it's last minute, but I'll be there in 20. Evan hung up and headed for the register, buying nothing. Outside, the September air had that first bite of autumn, the kind that made you remember time was still moving even when you felt stuck in place. He climbed into his truck, an old Ford his dad had left him before disappearing into whatever void swallowed men who couldn't handle their own lives. The drive to Marcus's place took 15 minutes through streets Evan could navigate blind. Same town he'd grown up in, same lake reflecting the same fading light. Sometimes he wondered what would happen if he just kept driving, if he pointed the truck north and didn't stop until everything looked different. But he never did. Marcus lived in a small rental near the water, the kind of place that was supposed to be temporary 5 years ago. Evan pulled up and found Marcus's car missing from the driveway. He texted, "Where you at?" The response came fast. "Shit. Emergency at work. Pipe burst in the new build. Mom's home though. She can let you in. Keys under the turtle planter if she doesn't hear you knock. You're a lifesaver, man." Evan sat in his truck for a moment, engine still running. He could leave. Text Marcus that something came up, that he'd catch him another day. But that would mean going home to his own place, where the silence had teeth and his daughter was spending the week at her grandparents' house because Evan couldn't seem to get his shit together enough to feel like a real parent. He turned off the engine. Lena Hart lived 3 blocks from Marcus, in a cottage that sat close enough to the lake that you could hear the water at night. Evan had been here exactly twice. Once for Marcus's 21st birthday, once for a 4th of July thing, where too many people had crowded into too small a space. He remembered Lena as a woman who smiled a lot and asked questions that made you feel like she actually cared about the answer. Marcus's mom. That was the box she lived in. He knocked, waited, knocked again. The door opened. And something in Evan's chest did this stupid, unexpected thing. Lena stood there in jeans and a soft gray sweater, hair pulled back in a way that looked accidental but probably wasn't, and for a second Evan forgot why he was standing on her porch. She looked tired. No makeup, lines around her eyes that seemed deeper than he remembered. But there was something else too, something in the way she held herself, like she was braced for disappointment but trying not to show it. Evan. She said his name like she was relieved and surprised at the same time. "Marcus said you were coming. He just called to tell me he got stuck at work." "Yeah, he texted me on the way over." Evan's voice came out rougher than he intended. He cleared his throat. "Said you needed help with a bed frame." "I do. Come in." She stepped back and Evan caught the scent of something, lavender maybe, or vanilla. Something that made the air feel warmer than it should. Inside, the cottage was exactly the kind of place Evan would have expected and nothing like it at the same time. Books everywhere, stacked on tables and shelves and the floor near the couch. Plants in the windows, some thriving, some barely hanging on. A half-finished mug of tea on the coffee table next to a laptop playing some acoustic playlist he didn't recognize. It felt lived in, real. Not like his place, where everything was too clean because nothing ever got used. "The bedroom's down the hall," Lena said, already moving. "I tried to start on my own, but gave up after about 10 minutes. Whoever designed this thing must have a PhD in torture." Evan followed her through the narrow hallway, walls covered in framed photos. Marcus as a kid, gap-toothed and sunburned. Lena and a man Evan assumed was Marcus's dad. Both younger, both smiling in that way people do before life gets complicated. He didn't see any recent photos of the husband. The bedroom was small but bright, evening light coming through sheer curtains that moved slightly with the breeze from a cracked window. The bed frame was scattered across the floor in pieces. Wooden slats, metal brackets, screws in a plastic bag that had already torn open, spilling hardware across the rug. "Jesus," Evan muttered. "This is from Sweden?" "IKEA," Lena said, like that explained everything. "I thought it would be simple." "Nothing from IKEA is simple." Evan crouched down, picking up the instruction sheet. It was in 4 languages, none of them helpful. "Okay, this'll take a while." "I've got time." Lena leaned against the door frame, arms crossed, watching him in a way that made Evan hyper-aware of his own movements. "Can I get you something? Water? Beer?" "Water's good." She disappeared and Evan started sorting pieces, matching numbers to the diagram, laying everything out in some kind of logical order. He could hear her in the kitchen, the sound of a cabinet opening, glasses clinking. When she came back, she handed him a glass and then sat down on the floor across from him, legs tucked to the side. "You didn't have to stay," Evan said, not looking up. "I can handle this." "I know, She took a sip from her own glass. "But it's my bed. Feels weird to just leave you here alone." They worked in silence for a few minutes, Evan fitting slats into the frame, Lena handing him screws when he needed them. Should have felt awkward, but it didn't. It felt easy in a way Evan hadn't felt in a long time. "How's Sophie?" Lena asked after a while. Evan paused mid-turn with the screwdriver. "She's good. She's with my ex's parents this week. That must be hard, being away from her." "It's what's best." The words came out automatic, a script he'd recited so many times he almost believed it. "I work a lot. It's easier for her there." Lena didn't respond right away. When Evan glanced up, she was looking at him with this expression he couldn't quite read. Not pity, something else. "You know," she said slowly, "I spent a lot of years convincing myself that things were easier when they weren't. It's a comfortable lie." Evan's hand tightened on the screwdriver. "I'm not lying to myself. Okay?" But the way she said it, like she didn't believe him but wasn't going to push, made something twist in Evan's gut. He went back to the frame, tightening bolts harder than necessary. They fell into rhythm after that. Lena asked about his work, and Evan told her about the houses he fixed, the leaking roofs and broken furnaces that kept him busy enough to avoid thinking. She told him about the art classes she taught at the community center, about the kids who showed up with nothing and left with something that looked like hope. "I didn't know you taught," Evan said. "Started about a year ago." Lena handed him another screw. "After the divorce, I needed something that felt like mine. Something that wasn't about being someone's wife or someone's mother." Evan looked up. "I didn't know you got divorced. 2 years ago, finalized last spring." She said it matter of fact, but there was weight underneath. "He's in Portland now. Remarried already, actually. Some woman he met at a work conference." "Shit, I'm sorry." "Don't be. It was a long time coming." Lena's fingers traced the edge of a wooden slat, not quite looking at him. "We spent the last 5 years of our marriage pretending everything was fine. I think that was worse than the actual end." Evan knew that feeling. Him and Claire had done the same thing, stayed together for Sophie, for the house, for all the wrong reasons until staying became more painful than leaving. "Marcus know about the remarriage?" Evan asked. "Yeah, he pretends it doesn't bother him, but I know it does." Lena's voice softened. "He's protective. Always has been. Even when he was little, he used to check the locks on the doors before bed, like he was the man of the house." Something about the way she said it made Evan's chest ache. He wondered what it cost her, being the kind of woman who needed protecting, or the kind who made her son feel like he had to. The bed frame was coming together now, the skeleton of it at least. Evan flipped it upright with Lena's help, and they stood back to look at their work. "Not bad," Lena said. "It'll hold." "You say that with such confidence." "I'm a contractor. If I can't build a bed, I should probably turn in my license." Lena laughed, a real laugh, the kind that crinkled her eyes and made her look younger. Evan found himself smiling without meaning to. They worked on the headboard next, fitting pieces together in silence that wasn't uncomfortable. Outside, the light was fading, the room filling with that blue-gray wash that came just before dark. Lena reached over to turn on a lamp, and for a second her hand brushed Evan's shoulder. She pulled back fast, like she'd touched something hot. "Sorry." "It's fine." But it wasn't fine because that brief contact had done something to the air between them, made it heavier, made Evan aware of how close they were sitting, how her perfume, or soap, or whatever it was, seemed to wrap around him. He forced himself to focus on the bolts. "Can I ask you something?" Lena's voice was quieter now. "You don't have to answer if you don't want to." "Okay." "Do you ever feel like you're just going through the motions? Like you're doing all the things you're supposed to do, but nothing actually feels real?" Evan's hand stilled. He didn't look at her. "Yeah, all the time." "Is it the grief? From your mom?" "I don't know." He tightened a bolt, watching his knuckles go white around the wrench. "Maybe. Or maybe I've just forgotten what it feels like to want something." "What did you used to want?" The question caught him off guard. Evan sat back on his heels, staring at the half-finished bed frame like it might have answers. "I don't know. I wanted to get out of this town once. Thought I'd go to college, study architecture, build things that mattered. Then Claire got pregnant, and that plan just evaporated." "Do you regret it?" "Sophie?" "No, never." The answer was automatic and true. "Everything else? Sometimes?" Lena was quiet for a long moment. When Evan finally looked at her, she was watching him with that same expression from earlier, like she saw something in him he thought he'd hidden. "I think you're braver than you give yourself credit for," she said. "I'm not brave. I'm just still here." "That's the same thing sometimes." Evan didn't know what to say to that. He went back to work, finishing the headboard in silence while Lena watched. When it was done, they lifted the mattress together and settled it onto the frame. It fit perfectly. "There," Evan said, stepping back. "All set." Lena sat down on the edge of the bed, testing it. "It's perfect, thank you." "No problem." But neither of them moved. Lena stayed seated, and Evan stood there with his hands in his pockets, suddenly aware that he should leave but not actually wanting to. The room felt smaller now, warmer, like something unspoken was taking up space between them. "Can I get you dinner?" Lena asked. "It's the least I can do. I've got leftover lasagna, and it's actually pretty good." Evan knew he should say no. Knew Marcus would probably be home soon, and staying felt like crossing some invisible line he couldn't quite name. But Lena was looking at him with this expression that wasn't quite hope, but close, and Evan realized he didn't want to go back to his empty house. "Yeah," he said. "That sounds good." They moved to the kitchen, Lena pulling a glass dish from the fridge and sliding it into the oven, while Evan washed his hands at the sink. The kitchen was small, the kind where two people couldn't move around without bumping into each other. Lena handed him a towel, their fingers brushing again, and this time neither of them pulled away fast. "Wine?" she asked. "I've got red." "Sure." She poured 2 glasses, handed him one. They stood there by the counter, not quite sitting, not quite standing, just existing in this strange in-between space. "To furniture assembly," Lena said, raising her glass. "To not getting electrocuted or losing a finger," Evan added. They clinked glasses, and Evan took a sip. The wine was dry, a little bitter. He wasn't much of a wine drinker, but he didn't say anything. "You know," Lena said, leaning against the counter, "Marcus talks about you all the time. You're like a legend in this house." Evan snorted. "A legend, right. I'm serious. The way he tells it, you can fix anything. Like you're some kind of small-town superhero with a tool belt." Marcus exaggerates. "Maybe, but he means it." Lena swirled her wine, eyes on the glass. "He worries about you." He doesn't need to. That's not how friendship works. She looked up. You can't just tell people not to care. Evan didn't have an answer for that. He took another sip of wine, feeling the warmth spread through his chest. The oven timer beeped. Lena pulled out the lasagna, the smell filling the kitchen. Garlic and tomato and cheese, the kind of smell that made you remember what home was supposed to feel like. She cut 2 squares, plated them, and they sat down at the small table by the window. This is really good, Evan said after the first bite. And it was. Better than anything he'd made for himself in months. Thanks. It's my grandmother's recipe. Only thing I can actually cook without screwing up. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, the kind of quiet where you didn't have to fill the space with words. Outside, the last of the daylight was gone, replaced by street lamp glow and the faint shimmer of the lake in the distance. Do you miss it? Lena asked. The marriage. Even the bad parts. Evan set down his fork. Sometimes, not Claire exactly, more like the idea of not being alone. That's honest. You asked. Lena smiled. I did. She took a sip of wine. I miss it too. The companionship, having someone to talk to at the end of the day. Even when we were fighting, at least it was something. Now it's just me and the quiet. Quiet's underrated, Evan said. Quiet's suffocating. The words hung there raw and real. Evan looked at Lena, really looked at her, and saw past the polite smile and the easy conversation. Saw the loneliness that mirrored his own. Saw a woman who'd spent so long being what everyone needed that she'd forgotten how to be anything else. I get that, he said quietly. Their eyes held for a beat too long. Lena looked away first, clearing her throat. More wine? I should probably get going soon. Right. Of course. She stood, taking their plates to the sink. I didn't mean to keep you. You didn't. Evan stood too, suddenly awkward in the small space. I should check in with Marcus, see if he's home yet. Lena nodded, not looking at him. She rinsed the plates, hands moving fast, like she needed something to do. Evan pulled out his phone, texted Marcus. You home yet? The response took a few minutes. Not even close. This job's a nightmare. You finished the bed? Yeah, all set. You're the best. I owe you one. Evan put his phone away. Lena was drying her hands on a towel, still not quite looking at him. He's still at work, Evan said. He works too much. Lena folded the towel, set it down. Always has. Runs in the family, I think. That got a small smile. Maybe. Evan should have left then, should have thanked her for dinner, said goodnight, walked out the door and driven home. But his feet didn't move. He stood there in her kitchen, watching her fidget with the towel, and something in him cracked open just a little. Do you ever think about leaving? He asked. Lena looked up, surprised. Leaving what? Here, this town, all of it. She thought about it, really thought about it. Every day. But then I wonder where I'd go, what I'd do, and it feels easier to just stay. Yeah. But sometimes, she said slowly, I think about what it would be like to be someone else, just for a day, to not have all this history weighing me down. Who would you be? Lena laughed, but it was sad. I don't even know anymore. Maybe that's the problem. Evan crossed the kitchen without deciding to, closing the space between them. He didn't touch her, just stood close enough that he could see the flecks of gold in her eyes, the way her breath hitched just slightly. I think you'd be exactly who you are, he said, just without all the people telling you that's not enough. Lena's eyes went bright, and for a second Evan thought she might cry. But she didn't. She just looked at him like he'd said something that mattered. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For seeing me. And that's when Evan knew he was in trouble. Because he did see her, saw past the role, past the history, past everything that should have kept her in the box marked Marcus's mom. He saw a woman who was lonely and tired and still somehow hopeful, and that combination did something to his chest that felt dangerous. He stepped back. I should go. Okay. But neither of them moved. They stood there in the kitchen, the space between them charged with something neither wanted to name. Evan? His phone rang. Marcus. Evan answered, breaking whatever moment had been building. Hey. Hey, man. I'm going to be stuck here for at least another hour. You still at my mom's? Yeah? Cool. Thanks again for doing this. I really appreciate it. No problem. All right. I'll catch you later. The call ended. Evan looked at Lena, who was watching him with an expression he couldn't read. He's stuck at work, Evan said, like she hadn't heard. I gathered. The silence stretched. Evan's pulse was doing this stupid thing in his throat, and he couldn't tell if it was panic or something worse. I really should go, he said again. This time Lena nodded. Okay. She walked him to the door, and Evan stepped out onto the porch. The night air was cool, sharp after the warmth of the house. He turned back, and Lena was standing in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself like she was cold. Thanks for dinner, Evan said. Thanks for the bed. They stood there looking at each other across the threshold, and Evan felt the weight of something shift, something that couldn't be unshifted. Good night, Lena. Good night, Evan. He walked to his truck, climbed in, started the engine. Lena was still standing in the doorway when he pulled away, a silhouette against the warm light of her house. Evan drove 3 blocks before he had to pull over, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to get his breathing under control. What the hell was that? He sat there for a long time, staring at nothing, feeling like he'd stepped off solid ground and didn't know where he was going to land. Finally, he drove home. The house was dark and empty, exactly like he'd left it. Evan walked through the rooms, turned on lights, turned them off again. Ended up on the couch with a beer he didn't want, staring at the ceiling. His phone buzzed. A text from Lena. Thank you again for tonight. It was nice having company. Evan stared at the message for a full minute before typing back. Any time. He regretted it the second he sent it. Regretted it because he meant it. Because given the chance, he'd go back to that kitchen in a heartbeat. Consequences be damned. His phone stayed silent after that. Evan finished his beer, then another. Eventually he fell asleep on the couch, still dressed, dreaming of a woman he had no business dreaming about. When he woke up the next morning, sunlight cutting through the blinds, his first thought wasn't of Sophie or work or the list of things he needed to fix. It was of Lena. The way she looked standing in her kitchen, arms wrapped around herself. The way she'd said for seeing me, like it was something rare and precious. Evan groaned, pressing the heels of his hands into his eyes. He was so screwed. 3 days passed before Evan saw her again. 3 days of fixing other people's problems while his own thoughts stayed broken. He replaced a water heater in a house on Maple Street, patched drywall for a couple who couldn't stop arguing about paint colors, rewired an outlet that kept tripping the breaker. Normal jobs. Easy jobs. The kind where he could work on autopilot and let his mind wander to places it shouldn't go. Wednesday afternoon, he was under Mrs. Patterson's sink when his phone rang. Marcus. You free Saturday? Marcus asked when Evan answered. Mom's having some kind of art thing at the community center. She asked me to help set up, but I've got Sophie that day, and Claire's being weird about switching weekends. Evan pulled himself out from under the sink, wiping his hands on his jeans. I thought you and Ashley were doing something Saturday. We were. She canceled. Marcus's voice had that flat quality it got when he was pretending something didn't bother him. 3rd time this month, that sucks, man. Yeah, well, she says she's busy. I think she's just not that into it. Marcus sighed. Anyway, can you help Mom out? It's just moving some tables and hanging art. Should only take a couple hours. Evan's stomach did something complicated. What kind of art thing? Student showcase or whatever? Kids from her classes? She's been stressing about it for weeks. Marcus paused. You don't have to if you're busy. No, I can do it. You sure? Yeah, what time? She said 9, community center on Lake Street. After they hung up, Evan sat on Mrs. Patterson's kitchen floor for a long minute, staring at the phone in his hand. He should have said no, should have made up an excuse, claimed he had work or that Sophie needed him, anything to avoid spending more time alone with Lena. But he hadn't, because apparently self-preservation wasn't something he was good at anymore. Saturday morning came cold and overcast, the kind of gray that made everything look washed out. Evan showed up at the community center at 8:45, figuring early was better than on time. The building was old, one of those municipal structures from the 70s that had been renovated just enough to not fall apart. The parking lot was empty, except for a blue sedan he recognized as Lena's. Inside, the main room smelled like old carpet and coffee. Lena was standing on a folding chair trying to hammer a nail into the wall. She was wearing jeans and a white t-shirt, hair pulled back, and when she turned and saw him, her face did this thing. Surprise, then something else. Something that looked like relief. "You're early," she said. "Habit." Evan set down his toolbox. "You need help with that?" Desperately. She climbed down from the chair, handing him the hammer. "I've been trying for 10 minutes. The wall doesn't want to cooperate." Evan took the hammer and examined the wall. Concrete block painted over about 40 times. "You need a masonry bit. Regular nails aren't going to cut it." "Of course they're not." Lena rubbed her forehead, leaving a smudge of dust. "I didn't even think about that." "Lucky you called in a professional." That got a smile. "Is that what you are?" "On good days." Evan went to his truck, grabbed his drill and a box of masonry anchors. When he came back, Lena had moved the chair and was sorting through a pile of artwork, paintings and drawings and collages, all different sizes. "How many pieces are we hanging?" Evan asked. 37. She said it like she couldn't quite believe it herself. "I might have gotten carried away with how many kids I let into the program." "That's a lot of art. That's a lot of kids who showed up every week for 3 months. Lena held up a painting, abstract swirls of blue and green that might have been water or sky or nothing. "This is from a girl who barely said 2 words the first month. By the end, she was painting every day." There was something in Lena's voice when she talked about the kids, a kind of tenderness that made Evan's chest ache. He busied himself with the drill, marking spots on the wall. They worked in rhythm, Evan drilling holes and installing anchors while Lena organized the artwork by size and decided on placement. Every so often, she'd hold up a piece and ask what he thought, and Evan would give an honest answer because she seemed to actually want one. "This one," she said, holding up a charcoal drawing of a lighthouse. "Or this one?" The second was watercolor, softer, less defined. "The lighthouse. It's got more weight." Lena studied both pieces, then nodded. "You're right, see? This is why I needed help. I thought you needed help because you couldn't drill into concrete." That too. By 10 o'clock, they had a system down. Lena would hand Evan a piece, tell him where she wanted it, and he'd hang it. They didn't talk much, but the silence wasn't empty. It was full of small things, the sound of the drill, Lena humming under her breath, the scrape of chair legs when she moved to a different section of the wall. Around 11, Lena disappeared and came back with coffee from the diner across the street. She handed Evan a cup, their fingers brushing in the exchange. Neither of them mentioned it. "So how long have you been teaching?" Evan asked, taking a sip. The coffee was terrible, but he drank it anyway. "Officially, about a year. Unofficially, I've been doing art workshops at the library for longer than that." Lena leaned against the wall, cradling her own cup. "After the divorce, I needed something that wasn't about being someone's wife or someone's mother, something that was just mine." "Marcus mentioned that a lot? The divorce?" "Not really. He pretends it didn't affect him, but I know it did." Lena's eyes went distant. "He was angry for a while, at his dad mostly, but I think some of it was at me too, for not fighting harder to keep it together." "That's not fair." "No, but it's honest." She took a sip of coffee, made a face. "This is awful." "Yeah." They both kept drinking it. Evan hung another piece, a painting of hands reaching toward each other, not quite touching. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "What made you finally leave?" "The marriage." Lena was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was careful, like she was choosing each word. "One night, about 3 years ago, I was sitting at dinner with Richard, my ex-husband. We just had this perfectly nice meal, talked about perfectly nice things, and I realized I felt completely alone, like I was having dinner with a stranger. And I thought, if this is what the rest of my life looks like, I don't want it. So you left." "So I stayed for 2 more years trying to convince myself I was wrong." Lena laughed, but it was hollow. "Turns out I wasn't. He was having an affair the whole time. The woman he married? That wasn't new. That was just finally out in the open." Evan's jaw tightened. He's an idiot. He's a man who wanted something I couldn't give him. Lena pushed off the wall, set down her coffee. I don't hate him. I just wish he'd been honest sooner. Would have saved us both a lot of time. You're being generous. I'm being tired. She picked up another painting. Where should this one go? They worked through the afternoon, stopping only when Lena's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, frowned, and answered. Hey, sweetheart. Her voice shifted, lighter. Marcus. Yeah, Evan's here. We're almost done. A pause. No, you don't need to come by. We've got it handled. Another pause. Longer. Marcus, I'm fine. Really? She listened, then laughed. Okay, I'll call you later. Love you too. When she hung up, Evan was watching her. He worries about you. Too much. Lena slipped the phone back in her pocket. He's always been like that. Even when he was little, he'd check the windows before bed, make sure the doors were locked, like he thought something bad would happen if he wasn't paying attention. Maybe something did happen once. Lena's expression shifted, something painful flickering across her face. His dad left for a work trip when Marcus was 8. Didn't come back for 6 months. No calls, no letters, just gone. When he finally showed up, he acted like nothing had happened. She picked at the edge of a painting frame. Marcus never really trusted him after that. Never really trusted anyone. Except you. Except me. She looked at Evan. And you. He talks about you like you walk on water. That's a lot of pressure. Welcome to being someone's hero. Evan didn't know what to say to that. He went back to hanging art, feeling the weight of Marcus's trust like a stone in his chest. By 3 o'clock, the walls were covered. 37 pieces of art, each one a small universe of someone's imagination. Lena stood in the center of the room, turning slowly, taking it all in. It's perfect, she said quietly. It's pretty damn good. She turned to look at him, and something in her expression made Evan's pulse kick up. Thank you. For today? For all of this? You already thanked me. I know, but I mean it. She stepped closer, close enough that Evan could see the flecks of gold in her eyes again, the way her hair had come loose from the ponytail. You didn't have to spend your whole Saturday doing this. I wanted to. The words hung there, heavier than they should have been. Lena's breath caught, just slightly, and Evan realized how close they were standing. Close enough that if he reached out, he could touch her. Close enough that he could smell her perfume, something light, floral, not overpowering. Lena. The door banged open. A woman walked in, mid-50s, carrying a clipboard and wearing a name tag that said Barbara, Center Director. She looked at Evan and Lena, then at the walls, and her face lit up. Oh, Lena, this is wonderful. The kids are going to be so proud. The moment broke. Lena stepped back, smiling at Barbara, and Evan busied himself packing up his tools. He half listened to their conversation, something about setup for the showcase next week, about refreshments and a guest list. His hands moved on autopilot, coiling cords, organizing drill bits. When Barbara finally left, promising to spread the word about the event, Lena turned back to Evan. The moment from before was gone, replaced by something more careful. I should let you go, she said. You've been here all day. It's fine. It's not, but thank you for saying so. She walked him to the door, arms crossed against the chill that was starting to creep in as the sun lowered. Can I buy you dinner, as a thank you? Evan should have said no. Should have made an excuse and gotten the hell out of there before he did something stupid. But Lena was looking at him with those eyes that seemed to see right through every defense he'd built, and he heard himself say, yeah, okay. They ended up at a diner on the edge of town, the kind of place with vinyl booths and a jukebox that hadn't worked in a decade. Lena ordered a burger, and Evan got the meatloaf because it was Wednesday's special on a Saturday, and he felt perverse. You're a rebel, Lena said when the waitress left. I live dangerously. I can see that. The food came fast, hot, and greasy, and exactly what Evan needed. They ate mostly in silence, comfortable enough that words didn't feel necessary. But halfway through the meal, Lena set down her burger and looked at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Can I ask you something personal? Evan's stomach tightened. Go for it. Do you regret it? Staying here, I mean. Building the life you have. He thought about it, really thought about it. I regret not having a choice, but I don't regret Sophie. She's the only thing I've ever done right. You've done more than one thing right. Feels like just the one most days. Lena reached across the table, her hand stopping just short of his. You sell yourself short, Evan. You're a good father, a good friend, a good man. You don't know me well enough to say that. Maybe not. She pulled her hand back. But I know what I see. And I see someone who shows up, who does the work even when it's hard. That counts for something. Evan's throat felt tight. He focused on his meatloaf, cutting it into smaller and smaller pieces until Lena laughed. What? You're murdering that meatloaf. He looked down at his plate. She was right. It deserved it. Clearly. They finished eating, the conversation drifting to safer topics. Marcus's latest crisis at work, Sophie's obsession with dinosaurs, the lake, and whether it would freeze early this year. Easy things, things that didn't carry weight. But underneath it all, Evan felt the current pulling. Felt the way Lena's eyes would linger on him when she thought he wasn't looking. Felt the way his own pulse would kick up whenever she laughed. This was dangerous. He knew it, but knowing didn't seem to matter. When the check came, they fought over it half-heartedly before splitting it down the middle. Outside, the temperature had dropped and Lena shivered in her thin jacket. You need a real coat, Evan said. I have a real coat. I just didn't bring it. That's not how coats work. Thank you, Professor Obvious. Evan shrugged out of his own jacket and held it out. Lena stared at it like he'd offered her something dangerous. I'm fine, she said. You're shivering. It's a short walk to my car. Lena, just take the damn jacket. She took it, slipping it over her shoulders. It was too big, swallowing her frame, and something about seeing her in his jacket made Evan's chest do that stupid thing again. They walked to her car in silence, the parking lot empty except for their two vehicles. When they reached the sedan, Lena turned to face him, still wearing his jacket. Thank you, she said. For today. For dinner. For everything. You keep thanking me. Because I keep meaning it. They stood there, the space between them charged with something Evan didn't want to name. He should step back, should say goodnight, get in his truck, drive home. But his feet didn't move. Evan, Lena said softly, can I tell you something? Okay. I haven't felt this scene in years. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Not by Richard, not by anyone. And I don't know what to do with that. Evan's heart was pounding so hard he could hear it. Lena, I know this is complicated. I know Marcus is your best friend, and I'm his mother, and there are 1,000 reasons why this shouldn't... She stopped herself, shaking her head. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. Don't apologize. I'm making this weird. You're not. Evan stepped closer, and Lena's breath hitched. You're just saying what I've been thinking for days. Her eyes widened. You have? Yeah. Oh. They stood there, inches apart, both of them breathing too fast. Evan could see the pulse jumping in Lena's throat, could feel the heat coming off her even in the cold air. This is a bad idea, she whispered. Probably. Marcus. I know. But neither of them moved. The moment stretched, taut and fragile, and Evan felt like he was standing on the edge of something that would change everything. His phone rang. The sound shattered the moment like glass. Evan pulled out his phone, saw Marcus's name, and felt his stomach drop. Hey, he answered, voice rougher than it should have been. Hey man, where are you? I just swung by your place. Evan glanced at Lena, who was watching him with wide eyes. I'm grabbing dinner. What's up? Nothing major. Just wanted to see if you wanted to grab a beer. Ashley's definitely done with me, so I'm drowning my sorrows. Evan closed his eyes. Yeah, sure. Where? Murphy's. I'm heading there now. I'll meet you in 20. When he hung up, Lena was already shrugging out of his jacket. She handed it back, careful not to let their fingers touch this time. You should go, she said. Lena, it's okay. But her voice was tight. He needs you. Evan took the jacket, feeling like he'd swallowed something sharp. I'm sorry. Don't be. She opened her car door, slid inside. Thanks again for today. She drove away before he could say anything else, taillights disappearing into the dark. Evan stood in the parking lot, jacket clutched in his fist, feeling like he'd just lost something he never actually had. Murphy's was crowded when Evan arrived, college kids from the community college mixing with townies who'd never left. He found Marcus at the bar, already nursing a beer and looking like someone had kicked him. "Hey," Evan said, sliding onto the stool next to him. "Hey," Marcus signaled the bartender, whatever he's having. They sat in silence while Evan's beer arrived. The TV above the bar was playing a game neither of them cared about. Around them, people laughed and shouted and lived their lives, oblivious. "So Ashley's done," Marcus said finally. "Officially. She sent me a text, a fucking text. That's rough. 3 months. I thought we had something." Marcus took a long pull from his beer. "I'm starting to think I'm just bad at this. At relationships. At all of it." "You're not bad at it." "Then why does everyone leave?" Marcus's voice cracked just slightly. "My dad. Ashley. Even Mom left Dad, and I don't blame her, but it still feels like everyone I care about eventually figures out I'm not worth the effort." Evan's chest ached. "That's not true." "Isn't it?" Marcus turned to look at him, eyes red-rimmed. "You're the only person who's stuck around. Everyone else finds someone better." "There's no one better than you, Marcus." "You have to say that. You're my best friend." "I say it because it's true." They drank in silence after that. Evan wanted to say something comforting, something that would make Marcus feel less like the world was ending, but words felt inadequate. So he just sat there, present, the way Marcus had done for him when his mom died. After the second beer, Marcus loosened up a little, started talking about work, about a project that was going sideways, about his boss who couldn't organize a one-car funeral, normal complaints, normal problems. "How was helping Mom today?" Marcus asked eventually. Evan's grip tightened on his beer. "Fine. We got everything hung." "She's been stressing about that showcase for weeks. I'm glad you could help." Marcus smiled. "She likes you, you know, says you're a good influence on me." I don't think I'm a good influence on anyone." "Well, she does. She's always asking about you, how you're doing, how Sophie's doing. I think she worries you're too isolated." Evan forced himself to take a sip of beer. "I'm fine. That's what I told her, but you know how moms are." Marcus shook his head. "She's been lonely since the divorce. I worry about her sometimes. She acts like she's fine, but I know she's not. She seems okay to me." "Yeah, well, she's good at hiding it." Marcus finished his beer, signaled for another. "I just want her to be happy, you know? She spent so long taking care of everyone else. She deserves someone who'll take care of her for once." Evan's throat felt like sandpaper. "Yeah, she does." They stayed until last call, Marcus getting progressively drunker and more morose while Evan nursed his third beer and felt like the worst person alive. When they finally left, Evan had to pour Marcus into an Uber, promising to get his car to him tomorrow. "You're a good friend," Marcus slurred, grabbing Evan's shoulder. "Best friend, you know that." "I know. I love you, man." "I love you too." The Uber pulled away, and Evan stood in the parking lot alone, feeling the weight of those words like a noose. He drove home slowly, deliberately, trying to outrun the guilt that was chasing him. But it followed him inside, sat with him on the couch, stayed when he finally crawled into bed. His phone buzzed, a text from Lena. "I hope Marcus is okay." Evan stared at the message for a long time before responding. "He will be. Just needs time." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "I'm sorry about earlier. I shouldn't have said what I said. Don't be sorry, but this can't happen. You know that, right?" Evan's thumb hovered over the keyboard. He knew what he should say, knew the right answer, but instead he typed, "I know." It was the truth and a lie at the same time. Because knowing something couldn't happen and making it not happen were two different things entirely. The dots appeared one more time, then disappeared. No more messages came. Evan lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, Marcus's words echoing in his head. She deserves someone who'll take care of her for once. And underneath that, quieter but no less insistent. "You're my best friend. I love you, man." He was so screwed. The next morning, Evan woke up to 17 missed calls. His heart stopped when he saw the first few were from Marcus, mind immediately jumping to worst-case scenarios. But the voicemail was innocuous. Marcus apologizing for getting so drunk, asking if Evan could bring his car by. The other 15 calls were work. A burst pipe at a rental property, water flooding the basement, emergency job, needed to get there now. Evan threw on clothes and drove to the property, grateful for the distraction. The work was messy and complicated, exactly what he needed. He spent the entire day knee-deep in water, fixing pipes and assessing damage, his mind blessedly empty of anything except the job in front of him. It was almost 7 when he finally finished. He was soaked and exhausted and smelled like a sewer. Marcus's car could wait until tomorrow. Everything could wait. But when he got home, Lena's sedan was parked in his driveway. She was sitting on his porch steps, arms wrapped around her knees. When she saw him, she stood up fast like she'd been caught doing something wrong. "Hi," she said. "Hi, Dad." They stared at each other across the yard, and Evan felt every conversation they'd had, every almost moment, stacking up between them. "We need to talk," Lena said. Evan's heart sank. "Okay." Evan unlocked the door and Lena followed him inside, neither of them speaking. The silence felt different now. Not comfortable. Not easy. Heavy with things that needed to be said and probably shouldn't be. He dropped his tool bag by the door, acutely aware of how he must look. Soaked jeans, shirt clinging to his chest, boots tracking mud across the floor. "I should change. Give me 5 minutes." "Take your time." Evan went to his bedroom, peeled off the wet clothes, stood under the shower for longer than necessary. The hot water felt good against his aching muscles, but it didn't wash away the knot in his stomach. When he finally emerged in clean jeans and a t-shirt, Lena was standing by the window, looking out at nothing. "You want coffee?" he asked. "Or something stronger?" "Stronger." Evan poured 2 whiskeys, neat, and handed her one. Their fingers brushed in the exchange, and Lena pulled back like she'd been burned. She took a sip, made a face. "That's terrible." "Yeah." She took another sip anyway. They stood on opposite sides of the living room, the space between them feeling like miles. "I've been thinking," Lena started, then stopped. Started again. "About what I said the other night. In the parking lot." "You don't have to explain." "I do, because it's not fair to you." She set down her glass, wrapped her arms around herself. "Marcus is your best friend. I'm his mother, and whatever this is," she gestured between them, "it can't happen. It would destroy him." Evan took a drink, let the burn settle in his chest. "I know. So we need to stop. Whatever this is, we need to stop before it becomes something we can't take back." "Okay." "Okay?" Lena's voice rose slightly. "That's it? Just okay?" "What do you want me to say?" Evan set down his own glass. "You're right. This is a bad idea. Marcus would never forgive either of us. So yeah, okay. We stop." Lena stared at him, something like hurt flashing across her face. "You make it sound easy." "It's not easy. It's just necessary." "Is that really what you want?" Evan's jaw tightened. "What I want doesn't matter." "Of course it matters." "Does it?" He took a step closer, and Lena's breath caught. "Because what I want is to stop pretending I don't think about you constantly. What I want is to not feel guilty every time Marcus talks about how much he trusts me. What I want is for you to not be Marcus's mother, so this could be simple instead of impossible." Lena's eyes went bright. "Evan, but none of that matters," he continued, "because at the end of the day, Marcus is the best friend I've ever had, and I'm not going to betray him for something that probably wouldn't even work out anyway." The words landed between them like stones. Lena flinched, and Evan immediately regretted them. Not because they weren't true, but because the truth was cruel. "Right," Lena said quietly. "You're right. I'm sorry I came here." She moved toward the door, and something in Evan cracked. "Wait." Lena stopped, but didn't turn around. "I didn't mean it like that," Evan said. "About it not working out. He dragged a hand through his hair. "I don't know how to do this. Any of this." Lena turned slowly.
Do what? Feel something real for the first time in years and know I can't do anything about it.
The confession hung in the air between them. Lena's expression shifted, something vulnerable breaking through.
You think I know how to do this? Her voice was barely above a whisper. I spent 20 years in a marriage where I felt invisible, and now I meet someone who actually sees me, and it's the one person in the world I can't have. Lena, do you know what that's like? To finally feel alive again and know you have to bury it?
Evan crossed the distance between them before he could stop himself. Lena looked up at him, eyes wide, and he could see his own conflict mirrored in her face. I know exactly what that's like, he said. They stood there, close enough to touch, neither of them moving. Evan could see the pulse jumping in Lena's throat, could hear the slight hitch in her breathing. Every instinct he had was screaming at him to close the gap, to stop thinking and just feel for once in his miserable life. But Marcus's face flashed through his mind, drunk and broken in the bar parking lot, saying, I love you, man. Like it was the most important truth in the world. Evan stepped back. You should go, he said, voice rough. Lena nodded, but her feet didn't move. I should. Neither of them moved. This is torture, Lena whispered. Yeah. She reached up, her hand hovering near his face, not quite touching. If things were different, they're not. I know. Her hand dropped. But if they were... Evan closed his eyes. If they were, I'd already have kissed you. When he opened his eyes, Lena was crying. Not sobbing, just tears sliding down her cheeks, and it broke something in Evan's chest. Don't cry, he said. I'm not. But she was. Evan pulled her into his arms before he could think better of it, and Lena buried her face in his chest. She fit there perfectly, and that made everything worse. Her shoulders shook, and Evan held her, one hand in her hair, breathing in the scent of her shampoo and feeling like the worst person alive. I'm sorry, Lena said against his shirt. I'm so sorry. For what? For feeling this. For coming here. For making everything complicated. You didn't make anything complicated. It already was. They stood like that for a long time, holding each other in Evan's living room while the evening light faded outside. Eventually, Lena pulled back, wiping at her eyes. I really should go. Yeah. This time, she made it to the door. Evan watched her walk to her car, watched her sit in the driver's seat for a full minute before starting the engine. She didn't look back. After she left, Evan stood in his living room, staring at the 2 glasses of whiskey on the coffee table. Hers was barely touched. He picked it up and drank it himself, then his own, then poured another. His phone rang. Marcus again. Hey, Evan answered, guilt flooding through him. Hey man, did you get stuck on that job? I texted you earlier. Yeah, sorry, burst pipe turned into a whole thing. No worries, just wanted to make sure you were alive. Marcus paused. You sound weird. You okay? I'm fine, just tired. Fair enough. Hey, you free Wednesday? Mom's showcase thing is that night. She asked if we could both come for moral support. Evan's stomach dropped. Both of us? Yeah, I know it's not your scene, but she's nervous about it. And honestly, after helping her set up, you've kind of earned a front row seat to the chaos. I don't know if I can make it. Come on, man. It's 2 hours max. Free wine, mediocre cheese, a bunch of kids' art. What else are you doing on a Wednesday night? Evan couldn't think of a single excuse that wouldn't sound suspicious. Yeah, okay, I'll be there. You're the best. I'll text you the time. After they hung up, Evan poured himself another drink, then another. By the time he stumbled to bed, the room was spinning and his phone was buzzing with a text from Lena. Thank you for tonight, for being honest, for everything. He stared at it for a long time before typing back. You don't have to thank me. I know, but I wanted to. Evan set down the phone, closed his eyes, and tried to pretend his life wasn't falling apart. The next few days passed in a blur of work and avoidance. Evan threw himself into jobs, taking on extra projects he didn't need just to keep his mind occupied. He fixed a deck, replaced a roof, rewired an entire basement, came home exhausted every night and fell into bed without thinking. Marcus texted him constantly, updates about the showcase, complaints about work, stories about his latest attempt at online dating that had gone predictably wrong.
Evan responded to all of it, playing the part of supportive best friend while guilt ate him alive. Lena didn't text, didn't call. The silence should have been a relief. Instead, it made everything worse.
Wednesday came too fast. Evan spent the afternoon finishing a bathroom remodel, scrubbing grout until his hands ached. He showed up to the community center at 6:30, 10 minutes late, hoping he could slip in unnoticed. The main room was packed. Parents and grandparents, kids running around in their good clothes, Barbara the director making announcements no one was listening to. The walls were covered in the art he'd helped hang, each piece lit by cheap spotlights that somehow made them look more impressive. Evan spotted Marcus near the refreshment table, talking to a woman Evan vaguely recognized from high school. He made his way over, weaving through clusters of people. "There he is," Marcus said when he spotted him. "I was starting to think you bailed. Got stuck at a job." "Story of your life." Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. "Come on, I'll get you some wine. Fair warning, it's terrible." They moved to the table, and Marcus poured 2 plastic cups of red wine that looked like it came from a box. Evan took a sip. Marcus was right. It was terrible. "Where's your mom?" Evan asked, scanning the room. "Somewhere in the chaos. She's been running around all night making sure everything's perfect." Marcus shook his head. "She's nervous as hell, even though this whole thing was her idea." As if summoned, Lena appeared through the crowd. She was wearing a dark blue dress, hair down, and when her eyes found Evan's across the room, something in his chest stuttered. "There she is," Marcus said. "Mom!" Lena made her way over, smiling at Marcus, carefully not looking at Evan. "You made it." "Wouldn't miss it," Marcus said. "Place looks great. You should be proud." "I'm mostly just relieved nothing's on fire yet." Lena finally glanced at Evan, and the look lasted half a second too long before she looked away. "Thank you both for coming."
"Evan's the one who did all the heavy lifting," Marcus said. "Literally, I just showed up at the end." "You were working," Lena said, "and Evan was very helpful." The word helpful felt like it carried weight neither of them wanted to acknowledge. Evan took another sip of terrible wine. "I should go mingle," Lena said. "Make sure the kids are having fun, but thank you again." She disappeared back into the crowd, and Marcus watched her go with this fond, worried expression. "She works too hard. I keep telling her she needs to slow down, but she never listens." "She seems happy, though." "Yeah, happier than she's been in years." Marcus turned to look at Evan. "I think the divorce was good for her, even if it was rough. She's finally doing things for herself instead of just existing for everyone else." Evan's throat felt tight. "That's good." "It is. I just wish—" Marcus stopped himself, shook his head. "Never mind." "What?" "I just wish she'd meet someone. Someone who'd treat her right. She deserves that." Evan forced himself to take another sip of wine. "She will." "I don't know. She's picky, which is good, don't get me wrong. But I think she's also scared. My dad really did a number on her." Marcus's jaw tightened. "If I ever see him again, I don't know if I can be civil." "You don't talk to him?" "Not in 2 years. Not since I found out about the affair." Marcus set down his cup. "He called me after the wedding, his new wedding. Wanted to clear the air. I told him to fuck off." Evan had never heard Marcus talk about his father like this, had never seen this particular shade of anger on his friend's face. "I'm sorry, man. Don't be. He made his choice." Marcus picked up his cup again, drained it. Mom made hers too. She could have stayed, could have tried to make it work. But she chose herself for once. I respect that. The conversation was interrupted by Barbara calling everyone to attention. She gave a speech about the program, about the importance of art in young lives, about Lena's dedication. The kids stood up one by one, talking about their pieces, some confident, some barely whispering. Evan found himself watching Lena instead of the kids, watching the way she smiled at each student, the way she nodded encouragement, the way her eyes went bright when a particularly shy girl managed to describe her painting to the crowd. Marcus was right. She was happy. Happier than Evan had any right to disrupt. After the presentations, the crowd dispersed into smaller groups. Marcus got pulled into a conversation with some of the other parents,
and Evan found himself alone near the back wall, studying a charcoal drawing of a tree. "That's one of my favorites." Evan turned. Lena was standing beside him, close but not too close, eyes on the drawing. "The kid who drew it," she continued, "barely spoke the first month. Then one day she just started drawing trees. Every single class. Different trees, different angles, but always trees." "Why trees?" I asked her once. She said they made her feel safe, that they were strong but also kind. Lena glanced at him. "I thought that was a beautiful way to describe a tree." "It is." They stood in silence, both staring at the drawing, acutely aware of each other. "This is harder than I thought it would be," Lena said quietly. "What is?" "Standing next to you and pretending I don't want to." Evan's heart was pounding. He glanced around, but no one was paying attention to them. Marcus was still deep in conversation across the room. "Lena, I know we can't, but it doesn't make it easier." "No, it doesn't." She turned to face him, and Evan made the mistake of meeting her eyes. There was so much there, want and sadness and frustration all tangled together. "If I asked you to leave Marcus out of this," she said, "if I said we could be careful that no one would have to know, would you?" Evan's chest ached. "You wouldn't ask that." "I know, but if I did..." He thought about it, really thought about it, about what it would mean to have something real with Lena, even if it was secret, about what it would cost when, not if, when Marcus found out. "No," he said finally. "I couldn't do that to him." Lena nodded like she'd expected that answer but hoped for a different one. "You're a good man, Evan Cole." "I don't feel like one." "That's because good men never do." Before Evan could respond, Marcus appeared at his elbow. "There you are. I thought you bailed on me." "Just looking at the art," Evan said, voice steadier than he felt. "It's pretty great, right?" Marcus looked at his mother. "You did good, Mom." "Thank you, sweetheart." Lena's smile was warm but didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'm going to check on the refreshments. You two enjoy yourselves." She walked away and Evan watched her go, feeling Marcus watching him watch her. "You okay?" Marcus asked. "You seem off tonight." Evan forced himself to look at his friend. "I'm fine. Just tired." "You're always tired lately. Maybe you should take a break. Take Sophie somewhere for the weekend." "Yeah, maybe." They spent the next hour making small talk with people Evan barely knew, drinking more terrible wine than was probably wise. By the time the crowd started thinning out, Evan's head was buzzing and his defenses were worn down to nothing. Marcus left to help his mother clean up, and Evan found himself alone again, this time near the exit. He should leave, should get in his truck and drive home and put distance between himself and this situation before he did something stupid. But his feet didn't move. Lena emerged from the crowd, arms full of empty wine bottles. She saw him and stopped. "You're still here," she said. "Yeah." "Marcus is in the back room if you're looking for him." "I'm not." The words hung between them. Lena set down the bottles on a nearby table, slowly, like she was buying time. "You should go home, Evan." "I know." "So why are you still here?" "I don't know." Lena stepped closer, close enough that Evan could smell her perfume again. "You're making this impossible. You're the one who came over here. You're the one who won't leave." They stared at each other, the air between them charged with everything they couldn't say. Evan's hands were clenched at his sides, every muscle in his body tight with the effort of not reaching for her. "Tell me to go," he said. "Tell me you don't feel this and I'll leave right now." Lena's eyes went bright. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I'd be lying." Evan took a step closer. Lena's breath hitched. "This is a mistake," she whispered. "Probably." "Marcus." "I know." But neither of them moved. They stood there, inches apart, the rest of the room fading into background noise. "We can't," Lena said, but her voice was breaking. "I know." "So why does it feel like we will?" Before Evan could answer, Marcus's voice cut through the moment. "Mom, where did you put the... Oh, hey, Evan, you sticking around to help clean up?" Evan and Lena stepped apart like they'd been shocked. Marcus appeared between them, oblivious to the tension, holding a garbage bag. "I can help," Evan said, voice rough. "Nah, we've got it. You've done enough." Marcus looked between them. "You guys okay? You both look weird." "I'm fine," Lena said quickly. "Just tired." "Me too," Evan added. "I should head out anyway." "Thanks for coming, man. Means a lot." Evan nodded, not trusting himself to speak. He headed for the door, feeling Lena's eyes on his back. Outside, the night air was cold and sharp, and he stood in the parking lot for a long moment, trying to get his breathing under control. His phone buzzed. "Lena." "I'm sorry." Evan stared at the message, then typed back. "Stop apologizing. I don't know what else to do." "Me neither." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Appeared again. "We can't keep doing this." "I know. So what do we do?" Evan's thumb hovered over the keyboard. He knew what the right answer was. Knew what he should say to end this before it destroyed everything. But instead he typed, "I don't know." The phone rang, Lena calling. Evan answered. "Hey, where are you?" Her voice was tight. "Parking lot? Don't leave, please." "Lena, just wait 5 minutes. I'll tell Marcus I'm going to my car for something. This is a bad idea." "I know, but I need to see you. Just for a minute, please." Evan closed his eyes. Every rational part of his brain was screaming at him to get in his truck and drive away. But he heard himself say, "Okay." He waited by his truck, hands shoved in his pockets, watching the community center door. After what felt like an eternity, Lena emerged. She walked across the parking lot, arms wrapped around herself against the cold. When she reached him, they just stood there, neither speaking. "I'm going to say something," Lena said finally, "and I need you to let me finish before you respond." "Okay." "I know this is wrong. I know Marcus would be devastated. I know there are 1,000 reasons why we shouldn't do this." She took a breath. "But I can't keep pretending I don't feel something real for you. I can't keep lying to myself that this is going to go away if we just ignore it hard enough." Evan's heart was hammering. "Lena, I'm not asking you to betray Marcus. I'm not asking you to make a choice right now. I'm just asking you to be honest with me. Do you feel this too? Or am I completely losing my mind?" By. The question hung in the cold air between them. Evan looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the vulnerability in her eyes, the way she was braced for rejection. "You're not losing your mind," he said quietly. "I feel it too." Lena's eyes closed and a single tear slid down her cheek. "Okay, but that doesn't change anything. I know. Marcus is my best friend. I know. If he found out, he won't because nothing's going to happen." Lena opened her eyes. "Right?" Evan wanted to say yes. Wanted to promise that they'd keep their distance, that this feeling would fade, that everything would go back to normal. But he couldn't, because he was tired of lying. "I don't know," he said. Lena nodded, like that was the answer she'd expected. "At least you're honest." "It's all I've got left." They stood there in the cold, both of them shivering, neither wanting to be the first to walk away. "I should get back inside," Lena said, "before Marcus wonders where I went." "Yeah." But she didn't move, neither did Evan. "This is killing me," she whispered. "Me too." Lena reached out, her hand finding his. Their fingers laced together, and for a moment they just held on, feeling the warmth of each other's skin, letting themselves have this one small thing. Then Lena pulled away. "Good night, Evan." "Good night." She walked back toward the community center, and Evan watched until she disappeared inside. Then he got in his truck, drove home, and sat in his dark living room, staring at nothing. His phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Thanks again for tonight. Mom was really happy you came." Evan closed his eyes, feeling the weight of those words. "Anytime." He set down the phone, poured himself a drink, and tried not to think about the fact that he was falling for his best friend's mother, and there wasn't a single thing he could do to stop it. The guilt was going to eat him alive, but apparently that was a price he was willing to pay. 2 weeks passed like a slow-motion accident. Evan kept his distance, declined Marcus's invitations to grab dinner or watch the game, made excuses that sounded increasingly thin. Marcus noticed but didn't push, which somehow made it worse. The guilt sat in Evan's chest like something physical, growing heavier every time his phone lit up with Marcus's name. Lena didn't text, didn't call. The silence should have been what Evan wanted. Instead, it felt like drowning. He threw himself into work with an intensity that bordered on reckless. Fixed roofs in weather he shouldn't have been working in, took jobs that required him to drive 2 hours out of town, stayed late even when the work was done. Anything to keep his mind occupied. Sophie came back for the weekend, and Evan tried to be present. Took her to the lake, made pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, read her favorite book 3 times before bed. But even then, his thoughts wandered. Sophie noticed.
"Daddy, are you sad?" she asked on Sunday morning, her small face serious over a bowl of cereal. Evan forced a smile. "No, baby. Just tired." "You're always tired." "I know, I'm sorry." Sophie reached across the table and patted his hand with her sticky fingers. "It's okay. Grandma says sometimes grown-ups get tired in their hearts, not just their bodies." The observation gutted him. Evan pulled his daughter into his lap and held her tight, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo and trying not to think about all the ways he was failing her. When Claire picked Sophie up that afternoon, she lingered at the door longer than usual. "You look like hell." "Thanks. I'm serious, Evan. When's the last time you slept?" "I sleep." "That's not what I asked." Claire's expression softened. "Look, I know things have been hard since your mom, and I know we're not together anymore, but you're still Sophie's father. She needs you functional." "I'm functional. Are you?" Claire crossed her arms. "Because from where I'm standing, you look like you're barely holding it together." Evan's jaw tightened. "I'm fine." "Right." Claire didn't sound convinced. "Just take care of yourself, okay? For her, if not for you." After they left, the house felt emptier than usual. Evan paced through rooms that suddenly felt too big and too small at the same time. He ended up on the back porch with a beer, staring at the lake in the distance, trying to figure out when his life had become something he needed to escape from. His phone rang. Not Marcus this time. Lena. Evan stared at her name on the screen for 3 rings before answering. "Hey." "Hi." Her voice was quiet. "Is this a bad time?" "No." "I wasn't sure if you'd answer." "Why wouldn't I?" "Because we've been avoiding each other for 2 weeks." Evan took a sip of beer. "Yeah. I need to talk to you, not over the phone. Can you meet me somewhere?" Every rational thought Evan had told him to say no. "Where?" "The old boathouse, by the North Shore. You know it?" "Yeah." 20 minutes? "I'll be there." The line went dead. Evan sat on the porch for another moment, then finished his beer in 3 long swallows and grabbed his keys. The old boathouse had been abandoned for years, the wood weathered gray, the dock half collapsed into the water. Kids used it as a party spot in the summer, but in October it was deserted. Lena's sedan was already parked when Evan pulled up, and she was standing at the end of the dock, arms wrapped around herself against the wind coming off the lake. Evan walked out to meet her, boards creaking under his weight. When he reached her, they stood side by side, both looking at the water instead of each other. "I can't do this anymore," Lena said after a long silence. Evan's stomach dropped. "Okay." "Not what you think." She turned to face him. "I mean, I can't keep pretending this isn't happening. I can't keep lying to Marcus, lying to myself, lying to you. It's eating me alive." "So what do you want to do?" "I don't know. That's why I asked you here, because I need to know what you want." Evan finally looked at her. She looked tired, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy knot. Beautiful and miserable in equal measure. "What I want doesn't matter," he said. "Stop saying that." Lena's voice rose. "It matters to me." "Why?" "So we can torture ourselves more? So we can acknowledge this thing between us and still not do anything about it? Maybe. Or maybe so we can figure out what the hell we're supposed to do next." Evan turned away, gripping the dock railing.
The wood was rough under his palms, splinters catching his skin. You want to know what I want? I want to not feel like a piece of shit every time Marcus calls me. I want to stop thinking about you constantly. I want things to go back to how they were before I walked into your house and realized, you're not just Marcus's mom, you're... He stopped, shook his head. I'm what? Someone I could actually fall for. Someone I'm already falling for. And that scares the hell out of me. Lena was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely audible over the wind. I'm already there, past falling. I've landed. Evan's eyes closed. Don't say that. Why not? It's true.
Because it makes this harder. It's already hard, Evan. It can't get much worse. It can always get worse, trust me. Lena moved closer, and Evan felt the warmth of her beside him despite the cold air. So what do we do? Keep avoiding each other? Keep pretending? I don't know. That's not good enough. Well, it's all I've got. Evan's voice came out harsher than he meant. I don't have a perfect solution here, Lena. I don't know how to want you and not betray my best friend. I don't know how to make this okay. So we just suffer in silence? If that's what it takes, that's bullshit. Maybe, but it's honest bullshit. Lena laughed, a bitter sound. You and your honesty, you think that makes it hurt less? No, but it's better than lying. They stood in silence, the lake lapping against the pilings below them. Finally, Lena spoke again, quieter now. I told myself I'd be okay with this, with just being near you sometimes, with whatever moments we could steal. But I'm not okay. Every time I see you with Marcus, every time he talks about you like you're the best person he knows, I feel like I'm betraying him just by existing in the same room as you. So do I. Then why are we doing this to ourselves? Evan finally turned to look at her. Because the alternative is worse. What's the alternative? Never seeing you again, cutting you out completely. And His throat tightened. I can't do that. Lena's eyes filled with tears. This is impossible. Yeah, I hate it. Me too. She stepped closer, close enough that Evan could see the gold flecks in her eyes, could count the freckles across her nose. If Marcus wasn't in the picture, what would you do right now? Evan's heart was hammering. I'd kiss you. And then what? I'd take you home. I'd spend the whole night learning what makes you laugh, what makes you cry, what you sound like when you're happy. I'd fall asleep next to you and wake up and do it all over again. A tear slid down Lena's cheek. That's a beautiful picture. It's a fantasy. Is it? Her hand found his, fingers lacing together. Because it feels pretty real right now. Evan looked down at their joined hands, feeling the warmth of her skin against his. This is dangerous. I know. We're standing on a dock in the middle of nowhere holding hands like teenagers. Someone could see us. No one's here. But they could be. Do you want to let go? Evan's grip tightened. No. They stood like that for a long time, hands linked, not speaking. The sun was starting to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was the kind of evening that should have felt peaceful. Instead, it felt like the calm before something inevitable. We should tell him, Lena said suddenly. Evan's stomach dropped. What? Marcus. We should tell him the truth. Are you insane? Maybe, but keeping this secret is killing me. And if we're not going to stop, if we can't stop, then he deserves to know. He'll never forgive us. Maybe not, but at least we'll be honest. Evan pulled his hand away, took a step back. You want to destroy your relationship with your son? I want to stop lying to him. There's nothing to lie about. Nothing's happened. Yet. Lena's eyes met his. But it will, Evan. You know it will. We can pretend all we want, but we're not strong enough to keep denying this forever. So your solution is to confess feelings we're not even acting on? My solution is to be honest before we do something we can't take back. Evan dragged his hands through his hair. This is crazy. It's the only way forward that doesn't involve us sneaking around behind his back. Or we could just stop, right now, walk away from each other and never look back. Could you do that? Lena challenged. Could you actually never see me again? Evan opened his mouth to say yes. The word wouldn't come. I don't know. That's what I thought. This will destroy him, Lena. You know that, right? He'll feel betrayed by both of us. He might never talk to either of us again. I know, but I'd rather hurt him with the truth than destroy him with lies. How noble! Evan's voice was sharp. You willing to lose your son over this? Lena flinched like he'd hit her. That's not fair. None of this is fair. You're right. It's not. But we're here anyway, and we have to make a choice. Keep lying and hope this goes away, or be honest and deal with the consequences. I vote for option 3. Walk away and never speak about this again. And you think that'll work? You think we can just flip a switch and stop feeling this? No, but we can try. I'm tired of trying, Evan. I'm tired of fighting something that feels more real than anything I've felt in years. Her words hung in the cold air. Evan felt them settle into his chest, heavy and true. So what do you want to do? He asked quietly. Really? Lena took a breath. I want to tell Marcus the truth, that I have feelings for you, that you have feelings for me, that nothing's happened, but we wanted him to know before it became something we had to hide. And then what? Then we let him react however he needs to react, and we accept the consequences, which will probably be him never speaking to either of us again. Maybe. Or maybe he'll surprise us. That's a hell of a gamble. So is keeping this secret and hoping it doesn't blow up in our faces. Evan stared out at the water, watching the last of the sunlight fade. Everything in him was screaming that this was a terrible idea, that confessing would ruin everything, that Marcus would never forgive them. But Lena was right about one thing. This wasn't going away, and sooner or later, something would give. When? He asked. What? When do you want to tell him? Lena's eyes widened. You're agreeing? I'm not agreeing. I'm asking when you want to detonate our lives. Don't be dramatic. How am I being dramatic? We're about to tell my best friend I have feelings for his mother. That's pretty much the definition of a friendship-ending revelation. Maybe. Lena stepped closer again. Or maybe he'll see that this isn't something we planned, that we tried to fight it, that we came to him before anything happened because we respect him too much to lie. You have a lot of faith in his capacity for understanding. He's my son. I know him. Not like this, you don't. Nobody knows how they'll react to something like this until it happens. Lena's jaw set. So we do nothing? We just keep torturing ourselves? I don't know what we do, but blowing up everyone's life in one conversation seems extreme. Then what's your suggestion? Evan didn't have one. He had nothing except the growing certainty that they were all headed for disaster no matter which path they chose. His phone rang. Marcus. They both stared at it like it was a bomb. You should answer, Lena said. I can't. You have to. Evan answered on the 4th ring. Hey. Finally, where have you been? I've been calling all afternoon. Just out. What's up? I need to talk to you. Can you meet me at Murphy's in like 20 minutes? Evan's stomach was in his throat. Everything okay? Yeah, just, I need to talk to someone, and you're the only person who won't bullshit me. Okay, I'll be there. Thanks, man. I owe you. The call ended. Evan looked at Lena, who'd gone pale. What did he want? She asked. To meet at Murphy's. Said he needs to talk. Did he sound upset? He sounded like Marcus. I couldn't tell. They stared at each other, both thinking the same thing. Did he know? Had someone seen them together? Was this the confrontation they'd been dreading? You should go, Lena said. What are you going to do? Go home. Wait. Try not to panic. Evan wanted to reach for her, to offer some kind of comfort, but his hand stayed at his sides. If he knows, then we deal with it together. Lena, go, Evan. He's waiting. Evan walked back to his truck, every step feeling like he was walking toward an execution. Behind him, he heard Lena's car start, then pull away. He sat in his own truck for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, trying to prepare himself for whatever was coming. Then he drove to Murphy's. Marcus was already at the bar, nursing a beer and staring at his phone. When Evan slid onto the stool beside him, Marcus looked up and Evan's heart sank.
His friend looked wrecked, eyes red, jaw tight, like he'd been crying or trying not to.
What happened? Evan asked. Marcus took a long pull from his beer. You remember Ashley? Relief flooded through Evan so fast he felt dizzy. This wasn't about Lena. Yeah. She texted me today, wants to get back together. That's good, right? You liked her. I did. I don't know. Marcus set down his beer. She said she made a mistake, that she got scared because things were getting serious and she freaked out. She wants another chance. So what's the problem? The problem is I don't know if I believe her or if I even want to try again. Marcus turned to face him. How do you know when someone's worth the risk? Evan felt the weight of the question. I don't know, man. I've never been good at that. You were married. You must have known at some point. I knew Claire was pregnant and I needed to step up. That's not the same thing. But you loved her once, right? I thought I did. Turns out I loved the idea of her more than the reality. Marcus absorbed that. How do you tell the difference? The difference between what? Between loving someone and loving who you want them to be. Evan thought about Lena, about how he'd known her as Marcus's mom for years without really seeing her, about how once he'd actually looked, he couldn't stop seeing her. I think you know you love someone when they're more real than the story you tell yourself about them, Evan said quietly. When all the things that should push you away just make you want to stay closer. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. That's pretty profound for someone who claims to be bad at this. Just because I know the theory doesn't mean I can execute. Fair enough. Marcus signaled for another beer. So should I give Ashley another shot? Do you want to? I don't know. Part of me wants to tell her to fuck off. But another part... He stopped, shook his head. Another part thinks maybe everyone deserves a second chance. Not everyone. No? Some people show you who they are the first time. You don't need to wait for them to prove it twice. And how do I know which one Ashley is? Evan took a drink from his own beer. You don't. That's the risk. Marcus slumped against the bar. I hate this. Dating. All of it. Why can't things just be simple? Because nothing worth having is simple. Since when did you become a philosopher? Since about 5 minutes ago. That got a laugh out of Marcus. Small, but genuine. They sat in silence for a while, drinking their beers, watching the game on the TV neither of them cared about. Can I ask you something? Marcus said eventually. Evan's chest tightened. Sure. Do you ever think about trying again with relationships? Sometimes. What stops you? Fear, mostly. That I'll screw it up like I screwed up my marriage. That Sophie will get attached and then I'll fail again. That's pretty bleak. Yeah, well, I'm not known for my optimism. Marcus turned to look at him. You deserve to be happy, man. You know that, right? Evan's throat felt tight. So do you. I'm working on it. Marcus finished his beer. Thanks for coming out. I know you've been busy lately. It's fine. No, really, I appreciate it. You're always there when I need you. The guilt was suffocating. Evan forced himself to meet Marcus's eyes. That's what friends do. Yeah, but you're more than a friend, you're family. The word hit Evan like a physical blow. He managed to nod, managed to keep his expression neutral, but inside he felt like he was coming apart. They stayed for another hour, the conversation drifting to safer topics. By the time they left, Marcus seemed lighter, less burdened. Evan felt the opposite, heavier with every word, every moment of trust he didn't deserve. In the parking lot, Marcus pulled him into a quick hug. Thanks again, man. You're the best. Anytime. Hey, you should come over for dinner this week. Mom keeps asking about you. Says we don't see you enough. Evan's stomach dropped. I don't know if I can. Work's been crazy. Come on, one dinner. I'll even cook. That's supposed to be an incentive? Okay, Mom will cook, but I'll do the dishes. I'll check my schedule. That's code for no, isn't it? It's code for maybe. Marcus studied him. Are you sure you're okay? You've been weird lately. I'm fine, just tired. Yeah, you and everyone else. Marcus unlocked his car. Drive safe. You too. Evan sat in his truck and watched Marcus drive away. Then he pulled out his phone and texted Lena. False alarm. He wanted to talk about his ex. The response came immediately. Thank God, I was freaking out. Me too. We need to talk. I know. Tomorrow? My place?
Marcus has a job site 2 hours away, won't be back until evening.
Evan stared at the message. Knew he should say no. Knew going to her house when they'd be alone was the worst possible decision. What time? Noon? I'll be there. He drove home through streets that looked the same as always but felt completely foreign. Everything was tilting, shifting, the ground beneath him no longer solid. When he finally fell into bed hours later, he couldn't sleep. Just lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about Marcus calling him family, about Lena wanting to tell the truth, about the fact that tomorrow he was going to her house fully aware that something was going to break. And he was going anyway, because Lena was right about one thing. They weren't strong enough to keep fighting this, and maybe that made them weak. Maybe it made them selfish. Maybe it made them the worst kind of people. But it also made them human. And humans, Evan was learning, were really good at making terrible choices that felt inevitable. Evan showed up at noon with coffee he didn't drink and a speech he'd rehearsed 3 times in his truck. The speech died the moment Lena opened the door. She looked like she hadn't slept either, hair loose, no makeup, wearing jeans and an oversized sweater that made her look smaller than she was. Hi, she said. Hi. They stood in the doorway for a beat too long before Lena stepped aside to let him in. The cottage looked the same as it had weeks ago, but everything felt different, sharper, more real. Coffee? Lena asked, even though he was holding one. I'm good. Right, of course. She wrapped her arms around herself. Do you want to sit? They moved to the living room and sat on opposite ends of the couch, a careful distance between them. The silence stretched until Evan couldn't take it anymore. So, what did you want to talk about? Lena turned to face him. I've been thinking about what I said yesterday, about telling Marcus. And? I think I was wrong. Evan felt something unclench in his chest. Okay, not about being honest, about the timing. Lena's hands twisted in her lap. If we tell him now, when nothing's happened, it'll feel like we're asking for permission, like we want his blessing to pursue this, and that's not fair to him. So what are you saying? I'm saying maybe we need to make a decision first about what we actually want. Then we can figure out how to handle Marcus. Evan leaned back against the couch. What do you want, Lena? I asked you that yesterday. I'm asking you now. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I want to stop pretending. I want to see where this goes without guilt eating me alive. I want... She stopped, looked up at him. I want you. Is that selfish? Probably. Does that make you think less of me? No. It makes me think you're human. Lena's eyes went bright. What about you? What do you want? Evan thought about Marcus at the bar last night, calling him family. Thought about Sophie asking why he was always tired. Thought about all the reasons this was wrong, and the one reason it felt right. The same thing, he admitted, which makes us both selfish. So what do we do? I don't know. This isn't like deciding what to have for dinner. This is... He stopped, ran a hand through his hair. This is choosing between my best friend and something that might not even work out. You think it won't work out? I think the odds are against us. That's not the same thing. No, but it's realistic. Lena shifted closer, and Evan felt the space between them shrink. Can I tell you something? Yeah. I don't need guarantees. I've had guaranteed. I had a marriage that was supposed to last forever, and it barely lasted 20 years. I'm not asking you for promises about the future. I'm just asking if you think this is worth trying. Evan met her eyes. And Marcus? We tell him, after. Once we know if this is real or just, she gestured vaguely, just two lonely people mistaking proximity for connection. You think that's what this is? I don't know, do you? Evan thought about it, really thought about it, about the way his chest felt lighter when Lena was around. The way conversations with her didn't require performance. The way she looked at him like she saw past all the walls he'd built. No, he said quietly. I don't think that's what this is. Lena's breath caught. So what do we do? Before Evan could answer, his phone rang. Marcus. They both stared at it like it was a live grenade. Don't answer, Lena said. I have to. Not right now. Not when we're... But Evan was already answering. Hey. Hey man, where are you? Marcus sounded stressed. I thought you were working the Henderson job today. Evan's mind went blank. I am, just taking a lunch break. Cool. Listen, the site up here is a disaster. They need me to stay overnight, maybe 2 nights. Can you check on Mom for me? Make sure she's okay? Evan's eyes found Lena's across the couch. She'd gone pale. Yeah, sure. Thanks. I just worry about her being alone, especially at night. The locks on her doors are kind of shit. I'll swing by later. You're the best. I'll call you tonight. The line went dead. Evan set down the phone slowly, and he and Lena just looked at each other. He wants you to check on me, Lena said. Yeah. Because he trusts you. Yeah. This is so fucked up. Evan laughed, a hollow sound. That's one way to put it. Lena stood up, pacing to the window. I can't do this. I can't sit here with you in my house while Marcus is 2 hours away trusting you to take care of me. She pressed her palms against her eyes. It's too much. So I should go. No, yes, I don't know. She turned to face him. If you leave right now, we're back where we started. Pretending, lying, slowly killing ourselves with what-ifs. And if I stay, then we cross a line we can't uncross. Evan stood up. I should go. Okay. But neither of them moved. They stood on opposite sides of the room, the air between them electric with everything unsaid. This is your chance, Lena said, to walk away, to do the right thing, to be the person Marcus thinks you are. I know. So why aren't you leaving? Evan's hands clenched at his sides. Because I'm tired of doing the right thing when the right thing feels wrong. Lena took a step toward him. What if we regret this? We probably will. What if it destroys everything? It probably will. Then why? Because I'd rather have one honest thing in my life than spend the rest of it wondering what if. Evan closed the distance between them. I'm tired, Lena. I'm tired of being noble. I'm tired of putting everyone else first. For once in my life, I want something that's just for me. Lena's eyes were shining. Even if it hurts people you love? Even then. That makes us terrible people. Yeah, it does. They stood inches apart, both breathing too fast, both knowing that this was the moment, the point of no return. Lena reached up, her hand hovering near his face. If we do this, there's no going back. I know. Marcus will hate us. Probably. We might hate each other eventually. Maybe. Her hand touched his cheek, and Evan felt it like an electric shock. Are you sure? Instead of answering, Evan kissed her. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was weeks of tension breaking all at once, desperate and messy and real. Lena made a sound against his mouth, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. Evan's hands found her waist, then her back, then her hair, pulling it loose from the knot she'd tied it in. They broke apart, both breathing hard, foreheads pressed together. We're really doing this, Lena whispered. Yeah. I'm terrified. Me too. She kissed him again, softer this time, and Evan felt something in his chest crack open, something that had been locked away for so long he'd forgotten it existed. The possibility of being wanted, of being chosen, of mattering to someone in a way that didn't require him to be useful or strong or anything except himself. They spent the afternoon tangled together on her couch, talking and kissing, and occasionally falling into silence that didn't feel empty. Evan told her about his mom's death, about the guilt he still carried for not being there at the end. Lena told him about the loneliness of her marriage, about feeling like a ghost in her own life. I used to fantasize about dying, she admitted, voice quiet. Not suicide, just not existing. Like if I could just disappear, everyone would be better off. Evan's arm tightened around her. That's dark. I know, but it's true. She looked up at him.
You're the first person who's made me feel like existing might actually be worth it. That's a lot of pressure. I know. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. Evan kissed her forehead. I get it. I felt the same way. Around 5, reality started creeping back in. Lena's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. How's your day going? Evan said he'd check on you later. She showed Evan the screen. What do I say? The truth, that your day's fine, that feels like lying. It's not lying. Your day is fine, isn't it? Lena looked at him, something soft in her expression. Yeah, it's more than fine.
She texted back a simple response, and they both stared at the phone like it might explode. When it didn't, Lena set it down. He's going to find out eventually, she said. I know. And he's going to be devastated. I know that too. So when do we tell him? Evan thought about it. Not over the phone. Not while he's 2 hours away. We wait until he's back. We sit him down, face to face, and we tell him the truth. Which is what exactly? That we've been lying to him for weeks? No. That we tried not to have feelings for each other and failed. That we know this is complicated and messy and probably a mistake, but we want to try anyway. That we're sorry for the position it puts him in, but we're not sorry for how we feel. Lena was quiet for a long moment. You've thought about this. I haven't thought about anything else. And you think he'll understand? No. But I think he deserves honesty more than he deserves comfortable lies. The words settled between them. Lena nodded slowly. Okay. When he gets back, we tell him together. Evan stayed until dark, neither of them wanting to break the bubble they'd created. But eventually, he had to leave. Had to go back to his own empty house and pretend everything was normal. At the door, Lena kissed him one more time. Thank you. For what? For being brave enough to stay. I don't feel brave, I feel terrified. That's what bravery is. Being terrified and doing it anyway. Evan drove home with his heart in his throat, replaying the afternoon in his head. The way Lena had felt in his arms, the sound of her laugh, the weight of what they'd done settling into his bones. His phone rang around 9. Marcus. Hey, Evan answered, guilt flooding through him. Hey man, just checking in. Did you swing by Mom's? Evan closed his eyes. Yeah, she's good. Everything's fine. Thanks for doing that. I know it's out of your way. It's not a problem. You're a good friend, Evan. I don't tell you that enough. The words were a knife to the chest. You too. Anyway, I should probably crash. Long day tomorrow. I'll call you when I'm heading back. Sounds good. After they hung up, Evan sat in his dark living room and hated himself. Not for being with Lena, that was the only thing in weeks that had felt right, but for the lie, for the betrayal that was coming, for knowing that no matter how this ended, someone he loved was going to get hurt. The next day dragged. Evan worked a job he could have done in his sleep, his mind somewhere else entirely. Around noon, Lena texted, I miss you. I saw you 12 hours ago. I know, still miss you. Evan found himself smiling despite everything. Me too. Marcus called. Said he'll be home tomorrow evening. Evan's stomach dropped. So we tell him tomorrow night. Yeah. Are you ready? No. You? Not even a little. But I think that's the point. They texted sporadically throughout the day. Nothing heavy, just small connections that made Evan feel less alone. By the time evening rolled around, he was exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with physical work. Sophie called before bed, her small voice chattering about her day at school. Evan listened and made the appropriate sounds, but his mind kept drifting. What would Sophie think when she found out? Would she understand? Would Claire use this against him in some custody battle down the road? Daddy, are you listening? Yeah, baby. Sorry, I'm listening. You sound sad. I'm not sad, just tired. You're always tired. The observation stung because it was true. I know. I'm sorry. It's okay. Grandma says grown-ups get tired because they worry too much. Do you worry, Daddy? Sometimes. About what? About everything, Evan thought. About you, about the choices I'm making, about whether I'm destroying my life for something that might not even last.
Just boring grown-up stuff, he said instead. Oh, well, you should stop worrying. Worrying doesn't help. You're right. You're very smart, you know that? Sophie giggled. I know. Love you, Daddy. Love you too, baby. More than anything. After they hung up, Evan sat with his phone in his hand, his daughter's words echoing. Worrying doesn't help. She was right.
But knowing that didn't make the worry go away. The next day came too fast. Evan woke up with his stomach in knots, went through the motions of his morning routine, and tried not to think about the conversation that was coming. Around 3, Marcus texted. Just left the site. Should be home by 6. Want to grab dinner? Evan stared at the message. Dinner with Marcus, pretending everything was normal, then going to Lena's house to blow up his best friend's life. The irony wasn't lost on him. Can't tonight. Rain check? No worries. Catch you later this week. At 5:30, Evan drove to Lena's house. She answered the door looking pale but determined, and they sat at her kitchen table rehearsing what they'd say. We start with an apology, Lena said. For what? We haven't done anything wrong. We've been hiding this. That's wrong. We were trying to figure out what it was before we involved him. It's still hiding, Evan sighed. Okay. We apologize for hiding it. Then what? Then we tell him the truth. That we have feelings for each other. That we want to see where this goes. That we know it's complicated, but we're asking for a chance. He's going to lose his mind. Probably. He might never speak to either of us again. I know. They sat in silence, the weight of what was coming pressing down on them. At 6:15, they heard a car in the driveway. Lena's hand found Evan's across the table, gripping tight. We do this together, she said. Together. The door opened. Marcus walked in, looking tired, and stopped when he saw Evan at the kitchen table. Hey, didn't expect to see you here. His eyes went from Evan to his mother, then back. What's going on? Evan and Lena exchanged a look. This was it. The moment everything changed. We need to talk to you, Lena said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. Can you sit down? Marcus's expression shifted, confusion giving way to something that looked like dread. What's wrong? Is someone dying? No, nothing like that. Just sit, please. Marcus sat slowly, his eyes never leaving their joined hands on the table. Evan saw the exact moment understanding dawned, the way Marcus's face went from confused to shocked to hurt in the span of 3 seconds. You've got to be kidding me, Marcus said, his voice hollow. Marcus, Lena started. Don't. He stood up so fast his chair fell backward. Do not tell me this is what I think it is. Let us explain, Evan said. Marcus laughed, a broken sound. Explain what? That my best friend and my mother... He couldn't finish the sentence. How long? Nothing's happened, Lena said quickly. Not really, just... How long have you been lying to me? The question hung in the air. Evan forced himself to meet Marcus's eyes. A few weeks, since I helped with the bed frame. The bed frame. Marcus's voice was strangled. You've been, what, sneaking around behind my back? No, Evan said firmly. We haven't been sneaking around. We've been trying not to feel this. But we can't keep pretending it doesn't exist. So instead you decided to just, what, go for it? Fuck my feelings? Marcus, that's not fair, Lena said. Not fair? Marcus's voice rose. You want to talk about fair? My best friend, he pointed at Evan. The person I trusted more than anyone, the person I called family, is hooking up with my mom. And you want to talk about fair? We're not hooking up, Evan said. Then what are you doing? The question was simple but impossible to answer. What were they doing? Evan looked at Lena, then back at Marcus. I don't know, Evan admitted. I don't know what this is. I just know I can't keep pretending I don't feel something real for her. Something real. Marcus said the words like they tasted bad. You've known her for what? 3 weeks as anything other than your friend's mom? And you think that's real? I know how it sounds. No, I don't think you do. Because if you did, you wouldn't be sitting at my mother's kitchen table holding her hand while you tell me you're stabbing me in the back. That's not what this is, Lena said, standing up. Marcus,
please, just listen. To what?
To how you want my blessing? To how this is all somehow okay because you have feelings? Marcus's hands were shaking. I came home from 2 days of work thinking I'd relax, maybe watch a game, and instead I walk into this.
I'm sorry, Evan said. I know this isn't what you want to hear, but I'd rather tell you the truth than keep lying. How noble. You want a medal for your honesty? I want you to understand. I understand perfectly. I understand that you don't give a shit about our friendship. I understand that you saw my mother and thought, yeah, why not? I understand that I don't matter enough to either of you to stay off limits. You matter more than anyone, Lena said, her voice breaking. You're my son. You're his best friend. This isn't about you not mattering. Then what is it about? It's about two people who were lonely and found something unexpected. It's about trying to be honest before it became something we had to hide. Marcus shook his head, backing toward the door. I can't do this. I can't be here right now. Marcus, wait! But he was already gone, the door slamming behind him so hard the windows rattled. Evan started to follow, but Lena grabbed his arm. Let him go, she said, tears streaming down her face. He needs space. I can't just... Yes, you can, because following him right now will make it worse. Evan sank back into his chair, feeling like he'd been hollowed out. Lena sat beside him, and they held each other while she cried and Evan stared at nothing, replaying Marcus's words. You don't give a shit about our friendship. Was that true? Had Evan really just destroyed the most important relationship in his life for something that might not even work out? An hour passed. Then 2. Marcus didn't call, didn't text, just silence that felt like judgment. Maybe I should try calling him, Evan said. Not tonight. Give him time. Time to hate us more? Time to process. But Evan couldn't just sit there. He kissed Lena goodbye and drove to Marcus's apartment. The lights were on, but Marcus wouldn't answer the door no matter how many times Evan knocked. I know you're in there, Evan called through the door. Just let me talk to you. Silence. Marcus, please. I know you're pissed. You have every right to be, but don't shut me out. More silence. Then, finally, Marcus's voice came through the door. Go home, Evan. Not until we talk. There's nothing to talk about. There's everything to talk about. Fine. You want to talk? Here's what I have to say. Fuck you. Fuck you for lying to me. Fuck you for making me look like an idiot. Fuck you for choosing her over our friendship. Is that enough talking for you? Evan's throat tightened. I didn't choose her over you. Yeah, you did. The second you decided your feelings mattered more than mine, you made that choice. It's not that simple. It is that simple. You're either my friend or you're not, and friends don't do this. So what? We're done? 25 years of friendship over? A long pause. Then, yeah, I think we are. The words hit like a fist. Evan stood outside the door, hand pressed against the wood, feeling everything crack apart. Marcus, go home, Evan, and don't come back. Evan stood there for another minute, but Marcus didn't say anything else. Finally, Evan walked back to his truck and sat in the driver's seat, hands shaking. He drove back to Lena's without deciding to. She opened the door before he could knock, took one look at his face, and pulled him inside. He won't talk to me, Evan said. Says we're done. Lena's face crumpled. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. This isn't your fault. It's both our faults. Evan pulled her close, and they stood in her entryway holding each other, both of them grieving what they'd just lost. The days that followed were brutal. Marcus wouldn't answer calls or texts from either of them. Word spread through their small town, not the details, but enough. Evan's best friend and his mother were suddenly not speaking to each other, and people noticed. Sophie picked up on the tension during her weekend visit. Why are you sad, Daddy? Just some friend stuff. Did you fight with Uncle Marcus? The word uncle twisted the knife. Something like that. You should say sorry. That's what my teacher says. When friends fight, someone has to say sorry first. I did say sorry. Then he should say sorry back. That's how it works. If only it were that simple, Evan thought. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. Evan threw himself into work, took on more jobs than he could reasonably handle, came home exhausted every night. Lena called him every evening, and they'd talk until one of them fell asleep, the phone still pressed to their ear. The relationship, if that's what it was, existed in this strange limbo. They'd see each other a few times a week, always at her place, never in public where someone might see and tell Marcus. It was everything Evan had said he didn't want. The hiding, the secrecy. But it was also real in a way nothing else in his life had been in years. One night, lying in Lena's bed, she turned to him. "Do you regret it? Telling him?" Evan thought about it. "I regret hurting him, but I don't regret being honest." "Even though it cost you your best friend?" "Yeah, even then." He pulled her closer. "Do you regret it?" "No, but I miss my son. I miss the way things were before." "So do I." They lay in silence, both mourning what they'd lost for what they'd found. A month after the confrontation, Evan was finishing a job when his phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello?" "It's Marcus." Evan's heart stopped. "Hey." "Don't hey me. I'm calling because Mom asked me to. Says you're avoiding her." "I'm not. I don't care. I'm calling to tell you that I'm going to try to accept this. Not because I forgive you. I don't. Maybe I never will. But because she's my mother, and I can't cut her out of my life forever." "Marcus, I'm not done. I'm accepting it because she deserves to be happy, even if her choice of who makes her happy is the shittiest possible option. But don't mistake acceptance for approval. We're not friends anymore. We're not brothers. You're just the guy dating my mom, and that's all you'll ever be." The words hurt worse than Evan had expected. "I understand." "Good. Don't hurt her. Because if you do, I will make your life hell. Are we clear?" "Crystal." The line went dead. Evan sat in his truck, Marcus's words echoing. Not friends anymore, not brothers. That night he told Lena about the call. She cried, but they were grateful tears. "He's trying. That's something." "It's something," Evan agreed. Progress came slowly. Marcus started returning Lena's calls, though the conversations were stilted and short. He came to her house for dinner once a month, and if Evan happened to be there, Marcus would nod and then ignore him for the rest of the evening. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. 6 months later, Lena convinced Marcus to come to one of her art shows, a bigger one this time, at a gallery downtown. Evan stood in the corner, giving Marcus space, watching Lena talk to admirers of her students' work. Marcus approached him halfway through the night, 2 beers in hand. He held one out to Evan. "Peace offering," Marcus said. Evan took it carefully. "Thanks." They stood in uncomfortable silence, both drinking their beers and pretending to look at the art. "She's happy," Marcus said finally. "Happier than I've seen her in years." "Yeah. I hate that it's with you, but I can't deny it's real." Evan looked at his former best friend. "I know I can't make this right, but I want you to know I tried not to feel this way. We both did." "I know, Mom told me." Marcus took a long drink. "Doesn't make it easier, but I'm trying to understand." "That's more than I deserve." "Yeah, it is." Marcus turned to face him. "Here's the thing. You hurt me worse than anyone ever has. Worse than my dad leaving. Worse than anything. Because I trusted you completely and you betrayed that." "I know. But you also didn't lie once you couldn't anymore. You told me the truth when you could have kept hiding it. And as much as I hate what you did, I respect that you didn't sneak around." Evan didn't know what to say. "I'm not saying we're friends again," Marcus continued. "I don't know if we'll ever be friends again. But maybe someday we can be something, for her sake, if not ours." "I'd like that." Marcus nodded, finished his beer, and walked away. But before he left the gallery, he stopped by Lena and kissed her cheek, said something that made her smile, and when he passed Evan on his way out, he gave a small nod. It wasn't much, but it was something. That night, lying in Lena's bed, Evan traced patterns on her arm. "Marcus talked to me tonight." "I know. I saw." She turned to look at him. "Are you okay?" "Yeah. I think maybe we'll be okay. All of us. Eventually." I hope so.
They fell asleep tangled together, and for the first time in months, Evan didn't dream about losing everything. He dreamed about Sophie running along the beach, about Lena painting in the morning light, about a future that wasn't perfect but was his. A year after the confrontation, things had settled into something almost comfortable. Marcus and Evan weren't friends the way they'd been, but they were civil, could sit in the same room without tension thick enough to cut, could have brief conversations that didn't end in silence or anger. Lena continued teaching her art classes, and Evan kept fixing things. They moved in together after 9 months, a decision that Marcus accepted with a tense jaw and a single nod. Sophie took to Lena immediately, delighted to have another adult in her life who actually listened when she talked. Claire was less thrilled but couldn't find a reason to object beyond general discomfort. One evening, Evan was on Lena's porch, their porch now, watching the lake when Marcus's car pulled up. Evan tensed, but Marcus just climbed the steps and sat in the chair beside him. "Beer?" Evan offered. "Yeah." Evan grabbed 2 from inside, handed one over. They sat in silence, drinking and watching the water. "She told me you're thinking about proposing," Marcus said eventually. Evan's heart kicked. "She told you that?" Moms tell their sons things, even when they probably shouldn't. "Are you here to tell me not to?" Marcus was quiet for a long time. "No. I'm here to tell you that if you hurt her, I will end you. But I think you know that already." "I do. And I'm here to say that I've been watching you two, watching how you are together. And I've never seen her like this. Not even with my dad when things were good." Evan didn't know how to respond. "So if you're going to propose," Marcus continued, "do it right, not some big public thing. She hates that. Something small, private, something that's just yours." "You're giving me advice on how to propose to your mother." "Yeah, weird as hell, isn't it?" Marcus took a drink. "Look, we're never going to be what we were. That's gone. But maybe we can be something else. Something new, for her sake. I'd like that. Don't make me regret it." "I won't." Marcus stood to leave but paused at the top of the steps. "For what it's worth, I think my mom made the right choice, even if I hate that the choice was you." He left before Evan could respond. 2 months later, Evan proposed. Not with a ring or on one knee, but with words spoken in Lena's kitchen on a Tuesday morning while she made coffee. Words about building something real, about choosing each other every day, about wanting a future that was messy and complicated and theirs. Lena said yes while crying into his shoulder. They got married at the courthouse 6 weeks later, just the 2 of them, and Sophie as their witness. Marcus found out after and called his mother, voice tight. "You got married without telling me?" "I didn't want to put you in a position where you felt obligated to come." A long pause. "I would have come, if you'd asked." "Would you?" Another pause. "Yeah, I would have. I'm sorry. I thought I was making it easier." "You don't make things easier by shutting me out, Mom." "I know. I'm sorry." They talked for over an hour, the longest conversation they'd had since the confrontation. And when they hung up, something had shifted. Not healed, not perfect, but better. Marcus showed up 2 days later with a bottle of champagne and an awkward hug for his mother and a handshake for Evan that lasted a beat longer than necessary. "Welcome to the family, I guess," Marcus said. "Thanks. Don't make me regret this." "I won't." Marcus opened the champagne, and the 3 of them sat on the porch and drank and talked about nothing important. But underneath the small talk was something bigger: acceptance, understanding, the beginning of something that might someday become okay. It wasn't perfect. The relationship between Evan and Marcus would never be what it was. The betrayal had cut too deep, left scars that wouldn't fully fade. But sitting there with Lena's hand in his and Marcus actually smiling at something Evan said, Evan realized that maybe perfect wasn't the goal. Maybe the goal was just showing up, being honest, choosing to try even when trying was hard. Maybe that was enough. Sophie visited every other weekend, and slowly the cottage by the lake became home. Lena painted in the mornings while Evan worked, and they'd meet for lunch and talk about nothing and everything. Marcus came by once a month, sometimes twice, and the conversations got easier. Not easy, but easier. 2 years after the wedding, Evan and Marcus grabbed a beer at Murphy's, their first time alone together since everything fell apart. They didn't talk about the past, didn't rehash old wounds, just sat at the bar and watched the game and existed in the same space without hostility. When they left, Marcus stopped Evan in the parking lot. You know what the worst part was? What? Knowing you were right, that you and Mom fit in a way that made sense, that made her happy. Marcus shook his head. I wanted to hate you for it. Part of me still does. But mostly, I'm just tired of being angry. So what does that mean? It means I'm trying to let it go, not forget, but let go. Marcus met Evan's eyes. We're never going to be best friends again, but maybe we can be something for her. For her, Evan agreed. They shook hands, and it felt like an ending and a beginning at the same time. Life moved forward. Lena's art classes grew, and she started selling some of her own work at local galleries. Evan's business picked up, and he hired an assistant so he could spend more time at home. Sophie started calling Lena by her first name instead of Mrs. Hart, and eventually started calling her something that sounded close to family. It wasn't perfect. There were still hard days. Days when Marcus would look at Evan and the hurt would be right there on his face. Days when Evan would wonder if he'd made the right choice. Days when Lena would cry over the relationship with her son that would never quite be what it was. But there were also good days. Days when Marcus would show up with takeout and they'd all eat dinner together and laugh at something stupid on TV. Days when Sophie would draw pictures of her new family, and Lena would hang them on the fridge with pride. Days when Evan would wake up next to Lena and realize he was actually happy, not perfectly happy, not without complications or regrets or the occasional overwhelming guilt, but happy in the way real life is happy, messy and flawed and worth it. In the end, that's what mattered. Not the perfect resolution or the complete forgiveness or the tidy ending where everyone got what they wanted. Just people trying their best, making mistakes, hurting each other, loving each other anyway. Just people being human. And that, Evan thought as he sat on his porch watching the sunset with Lena beside him and Marcus's laugh echoing from inside the house, was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything.